Hello, everybody. I'm Logan. This is Logan Talk Sports, and the World Cup is now in the semifinals while the NFL season is just 8 weeks away. So, starting with the World Cup, before I get into the semifinals and everything, I wanted to go over the previous rounds like I've been doing. And I left off right before the round of 16 started. And the round of 16 started very boring, in my opinion, honestly. The first game on 4th of July was Canada-Morocco, and this was just, it was always going to be a Morocco very easy win. And yeah, that's what ended up being 3-0. Morocco, it was just never a doubt for them, really. I don't think they ever really worried about Canada. And honestly, it was impressive that Canada made it to this game, to be completely honest. But yeah, I mean, you're just not really gonna see. Um, you didn't really see too much trouble for Morocco in this game, and it really just seemed like they were getting ready for France. And obviously, we'll get into how that ended up being for them. It was a little odd though, just how many yellow cards they had in this match. Just in the first half alone, though, they had four for Morocco, and that was just kind of crazy to see, just because of how much yellow cards mattered. If Morocco would have made it to the semifinals, but this whole game really just a lot of yellow cards thrown out. Um, but I mean, yeah, I've already said what I need to say about this match. Not too much, really to talk about. It was pretty easy for Morocco. And then France Paraguay. There's been a lot of just talk about this game after the fact because of stuff people said to Mbappe, what Mbappe said back. Um, and then also a lot of people just talking about how they didn't like how Paraguay played, and I can see that. I mean, they really were just trying to not let France score and didn't care about scoring themselves at all. They really wanted to get to pins, and playing like that ended up causing a pin that allowed France to win this game. And really, yeah, I mean, this game was just Paraguay playing scared. And I keep seeing a quote that people have said, not just in this game, but uh, talking about like whenever you're scared to play an opponent, you've already lost compared to whenever you are there to compete, you actually have a chance. And Paraguay really in this game played scared. They lost before kickoff even happened. Um, so yeah, and as much as I haven't really loved France, I just don't want a repeat winner of like one of the last couple World Cups, and so I don't really have anything against France other than that. But I am glad they won that game because of um, all the stuff that went into that, from Paraguay's side. And then the next day is when the round of 16 really started to pick up. Brazil and Norway, just honestly an amazing game there. Uh, I mean, it was really just back and forth this entire game. And what shocked me, I wasn't expecting Norway to look like the better team most of the game. I expected them to compete and I expected them to play well, and I saw that there was a chance at an upset here, but I did not think it would happen like this. Norway just completely dominated this game, to be completely honest, and it really should have been 2-0, honestly. Um, Obviously, you could say it could have been 2-1 anyway because Brazil missed that real penalty way earlier in the match, but Norway just had complete control of this game, and Holland just looked unstoppable at the end. Um, and then I'm glad Neymar got his goal in that with that penalty right at the end. But yeah, it was really just it made me happy to see how well Norway played in this one because they're a real dark horse team in this World Cup. So I was very happy to see them beat a team like Brazil, especially because Brazil had not been playing like Brazil should play. They were just not playing like one of the best teams in the world, like they need to be. So I'm not surprised they went out there. And then what a lot of people's favorite game of the round of 16 was Mexico and England at the Azteca. Honestly, just an insane game. Um, really, at first, it looked like Mexico was just going to control the game for the most part. I mean, it was very a 50-50 game, but it just looked like the crowd and the altitude and all of that stuff that people talked about what was going to play a factor. And then Jude Bellingham scored 2 goals in 2 minutes, and you're like, oh crap, England is so much better than Mexico. But then Mexico really fought back. They got the goal just a couple minutes after, um, had really momentum going into halftime, and then England, a little bit, at about 9 minutes out of halftime, got the red card. And then Mexico had the huge mistake by allowing that penalty. Just a great play by Anthony Gordon to get up and make something happen whenever you're already down to 10 men to give your team a chance at another goal, and Harry Kane just slots in that penalty um, to make it 3-1 there. And then I mean Mexico did their thing trying to get back. They got their own penalty, and then they really controlled the game after that. Obviously, England kind of parking the bus um, and able to hold on, but just an insane game. Honestly, it just felt different than a lot of World Cup games have this World Cup, and I think that's really just a big factor of where the game was played with Mexico fans and everyone. It really just felt like a huge moment, honestly. And so that was probably my favorite game to watch, especially because I was rooting for England in that game. I'm wearing an England jersey right now, so that was a fun game to watch. And then Portugal and Spain after that, the next day. This one, I don't know. It was kind of a weird game in my opinion, just because I would have liked more scoring to happen, to be honest, but I didn't mind it. And honestly, the way it ended with the one score was kind of perfect, especially with what happened in the next round with Spain too. Um, but yeah, not too much of note in my opinion with this game. Just kind of, I don't know. It didn't just feel like either of these teams stood out as much against each other. And honestly, it's because both these teams are pretty well matched. I mean, Spain played a little bit better overall, but these teams are pretty well matched, and I thought that going into this game. I had Portugal taking it in pins, and so I'm not surprised at all that Spain won this one, especially only 1-0. And then Mikel Merino, just a monster, so clutch. Um, yeah, that was a fine game to watch. I wanted Portugal to win though because I thought the next game was going to be good. It ended up being the worst game ever. USA versus Belgium. I had the USA taking this one. I'm not gonna lie about that. I really thought that the USA were going to be able to compete in this game, and what makes me mad about this game is not even that they didn't compete. It's that they really looked like they were going to for a lot of this game. And the difference was just bad mistakes. It wasn't that they were just completely outplayed. It was mistakes that they could have fixed easily and maybe not won this game. Maybe they would have lost still 2-1 or something like that. But there was no reason for it to be as bad as it was. And you just really, in my opinion, people are blaming or not the wrong people, because some people are blaming Tim Ream, which, yeah. I feel like everybody's like hating on Pulisic though for some reason, and like I get it, you don't like that he's injury prone and stuff like that, but that's not his fault. And so to act like he's soft or anything like that whenever he was seriously injured is just very dumb to me. But you really got to step up. You really got to have performances from the two players in the back that did not have performances, Tim Ream and Matt Freeze. And honestly, those are the two positions going into the World Cup that every U.S. fan knew we had problems with, and we ended up having problems with them. So it's just tough to see because I really thought the U.S. was going to win this game or at least compete better than they did. And yeah, I'm very mad about it, but I do think the U.S. will be back. There's just so much. The soccer's growing so much as a sport in the U.S. right now, and I could really see the U.S. team. Maybe not next World Cup. Hopefully next World Cup they can maybe get to the quarters or something like that. But I don't know if they can truly compete. I see that really happening by like 2038, which might be the next time the U.S. hosts. Just because soccer is growing so much as a sport in the U.S. right now, and I could really see them by that time um, expanding more and more to where you just have such a monster of a team. Because this is already one of the U.S.'s best generations of players, but they just don't have the passion, honestly. And I think the more soccer grows in the U.S., you're going to have more players that are at that level that the current team is, or most likely better, and hopefully with more passion to be able to beat teams like Belgium. But I'm glad Belgium's out now, so Spain avenged us. And then the next game in the round of 32, I think everybody was a little mad at this game. Argentina and Egypt. It just gets to a point, and with Argentina, it really gets to a point. It's now happened in like 4 or 5 games in the past two World Cups where it's like you can just feel like something's wrong. And I like Argentina. I love Messi, but it just feels like something's up to where like they're just obviously getting favorable calls that no other team would get. And you can see clearly in this Argentina Egypt game, they had the same call that went Argentina's way and didn't go Egypt's way. And it was a huge difference in this. Egypt could have had a third goal with a foul occurred way back on Argentina's or on Egypt's defensive side that really did not have that much to do with the goal at all, especially whenever they had to go to VAR and speed up the replay at like 3 times the speed. And I just think that's so dumb. That's not what VAR is for. I even talked about this in the last week about that. This is just not what VAR is for. And you're just seeing it again with stuff like this. And so that goal gets called back for Egypt. Obviously, they collapsed. They should not have done that. They were up 2-0. They should have just held on. It's completely their fault that stuff like that happened. But then Argentina gets a goal where there was an obvious foul, and the ref doesn't even look at it to say, oh, we should call this back. We just did the same thing against Egypt. Why are they not calling it back against Argentina? And you're just seeing that again and again, though, with Argentina and stuff like that happening, that it's just really getting annoying at this point. So as much as I like Messi and everything, he already won his World Cup. I'd be happy if they lost at this point because it's just getting annoying to watch their games now, to be completely honest. And then after that game, though, was Switzerland and Colombia to round out the round of 16. I didn't really get to watch a lot of this game. I was kind of busy for a good amount of this game, and really it was very 50-50. Like pretty much everything in this game was 50-50. And that shot at the very end by Colombia that you have to have, I cannot believe that dude missed it, to be completely honest. Just when you're that close to the goal, you are an attacker. How are you skying that? I just don't get that. And I mean, it really cost Colombia, but I don't know. There wasn't too much that happened in this game. Obviously, it went to pins, which was fun. Um, and even that has some twists and turns in it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this game. I did think Colombia was gonna win because I thought they had a better chance at beating Argentina. Um, and so obviously, if they had a better chance of beating Argentina, I thought they were the better team, and I thought they'd beat Switzerland. I was wrong about that, but I knew that game would be close, so I'm not too mad about that. Because yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't too confident in either pick on that. Um, but yeah, that was the round of 16. Now to the quarterfinals. Um, Honestly, the France and Morocco game, Morocco just did not seem prepared. It's not, or not prepared. It's that France looked too good, to be completely honest. And it's like what's crazy about how France is playing right now is that like Morocco is an amazing team. They're a top 10 team in the world, and they're just not even able to really compete against France in this game at all. Um, I mean, you really look at it, and it was pretty close on possession, but everything else France just dominated. Shots on target, just attempts in general, and France really just had control of this game. It took them a while to finally get their goal with Mbappe just scoring an amazing shot. But yeah, France just looks way too good right now. To be able to completely dominate Morocco like that is very scary. But they do have Spain coming up, so I don't know. That one's tough to pick, but I'm not picking it yet. So I guess we'll get to that. And then talking about Spain, they played Belgium. Mikel Merino again, clutchest player in the world as of right now, to be completely honest. Um, I mean, this one I feel like should have been over way earlier than it was. Spain just looked like the better team to me. They played like the better team the entire game. Belgium somehow stayed in it. Um, but I'm just glad the better team won, to be completely honest. Belgium, a lot of the stuff they said after beating the U.S. was a little annoying and dumb, honestly. So I'm glad the right team won, and I'm glad Mikel Merino was the one to do it. Obviously, played for Arsenal or plays for Arsenal, so glad he was the one to do it. Clutch player, makes clutch plays. And then going into Saturday's games, England and Norway, I I really thought Norway were gonna do it for a little bit here. That shot in the 36th minute was insane. It looked like England was just so scared of Holland at the start of this game to where a lot of stuff was opening up for a lot of other Norway players, and they really took advantage of it from the start. But then it got to a point where it's like Norway's relying too much on Holland being a presence that they're not giving it to Holland. Obviously, there's a clip floating around of the Sorloth not passing it to Holland whenever he had a clear chance. And I get that to a point. I just think Sorloth played it wrong entirely. You have to make a decision whether choosing to shoot or pass. He decided basically to do neither there. And obviously, it was a hard pass because of how well the defender was playing. He was in perfect positioning. But you have to make a decision to either pass or shoot there. And he just waited too long. It was a terrible mistake, honestly. And then I hated the decision to take Holland out there. Those are the biggest 15 minutes of the World Cup. And obviously, Holland wasn't having an amazing game. But I just don't think you can take Holland off there. He's your best player. And when you're in situations like that in extra time, to take off your best player is just honestly really dumb to me. So I think the better team won in this game. I wasn't really rooting necessarily for either team. I would have been glad either way. Um, and yeah, I'm glad England won. Jude Bellingham is just on a tear right now. 2 goals in the last game against Mexico, 2 goals in this game against Norway. This dude's a midfielder. Like, obviously, he's a great attacking midfielder, but still, he's a midfielder, and Jude Bellingham is just taking over in the World Cup right now. And so, yeah, England, as iffy as they get sometimes, they're looking really good right now. And then Switzerland, Argentina, and this one again goes back to what I was saying with the Argentina stuff of like, it just gets to a point sometimes where I just don't love the decisions. Obviously, this one is a bit different because the ref technically did the right thing. It's just, why is the rule set up like that? I don't get why on those simulation plays where you have to, or where a yellow was given, why you have to switch the yellow to the other person. Obviously, I get you don't want them to be flopping, and that's a way of getting them to not flop, but I just feel like the foul's enough. Just give Argentina a free kick there. And I know the ref couldn't have done it otherwise. That's the rule. That's how it's set up. I just feel like in the future, that's just, the rule needs some tweaking. So yeah, I mean, it's just a little annoying. But Argentina was the better team in this game. This one wasn't as big as a scare as some of the ones they had before, like against Cape Verde and against Egypt. And honestly, this is the best Argentina's looked in the knockout stages so far, and I guess it's a good time to start looking the best you have looked. But if this is the best Argentina looks against England, I just don't know if they're going to be able to win. So, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about the round of 16 and quarterfinals. But I guess now we will get into choosing stuff for the World Cup final. But before I talk about my actual predictions, I just wanted to show kind of my ranking of these teams as just kind of a power ranking of what I think of each of these teams right now, how they're playing. It's not necessarily how I'm going to even pick for this bracket between them, but this is my ranking of the teams right now, and I think most people would agree. They might disagree about Argentina being at 4 just because Argentina is probably better than all of these teams, to be honest, at most times, but they're just not playing like it right now, so that's why I have to put them at 4. And then I think England's fair at 3. I'm debating switching them with Spain. I just don't know for sure. They're just too iffy for me, while Spain looks a little bit more controlled in their games. So that's why I have Spain at 2, England at 3, and then France just looks unbeatable right now, to where I'm just not sure if it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say about that for them. Now going into the bracket now. This one's a little hard for me to pick between France and Spain. France, obviously, like I've been saying, they just look unbeatable right now. They look unstoppable. But I've also picked Spain since the very first bracket I did of this before the World Cup started. And having the opportunity to choose Spain in my last bracket just makes it to where I want to choose Spain again, at least in this game against France. So yeah, I am going to take Spain in this one. And then England, Argentina. This one's a little tough because Argentina, I do think, is the better team a lot of the time. And obviously, they won the last World Cup. But they're just playing so bad right now, in my opinion. Even against Switzerland, they should not have allowed that to go to extra time. And really, I thought for a little bit of it, they might lose that game if it weren't for that red card. And so that is why I am going to go with England here, just because they've looked like the better team. They've been able to take control of games when needed to, even fight through adversity a little bit. Not to the level Argentina has, obviously, because Argentina has put themselves in terrible situations, but England has been put in situations that are bad, not necessarily always their fault, like with having to play Mexico in Mexico and everything like that, but that's just how hosting works for Mexico. But I think England's fought through adversity more, just in a better way than Argentina has. And so that's why I'm going to pick England in this one. And then in the World Cup final, Spain and England, obviously a rematch of the Euro final. And I'm going to have a repeat of what happens in that Euro final. And same reason I picked Spain over France is because I have the opportunity to pick the same team that I picked at the very beginning of the bracket. I like Spain. I obviously like England. I'm wearing a jersey right now, but give me Spain in this one. So, yeah, this is my final World Cup bracket. I'm a little sad the World Cup's ending, but I'm also excited for club soccer to start back up in August. I'm also just I'm ready to see Arsenal play again. I'm an Arsenal fan, and so as much as I love the World Cup, I am a little bit excited to see some of that happen because a lot of the excitement between some of the teams in the World Cup is kind of gone. Obviously, you're down to 4 teams now. And so some of the excitement's a little bit gone that you had in the group stage and earlier rounds of the knockout stages, but I'm still really excited for these semifinals and the final on the 19th. But yeah, these are my final World Cup predictions. It is now the time for NFL record predictions, and I promised in the last time I did this that I'd do AFC North next because that was the division that the AFC South played the most. So I just thought it'd be easy and simple to do the AFC North next. And so there's already games on here for each team that have already been picked. So starting with the Bengals, they are 2-2 before I've even picked anything else for this. And they do have some tough games in their schedule, especially in week 1. And so I just feel confident that they're not going to lose 2 in a row, but I'm confident also that they are losing to the Texans. And since they're at home against the Buccaneers, I'm going to give them that game. I'm also going to give them the game against the Steelers, which would make it not an awful start for them by any means, but 2-2 to start off the season is not great if you're the Bengals really wanting to get some improvements over the last couple of years. But I don't know. That's just how I see it. And then I do think they'll beat the Dolphins. Dolphins are going to be really bad this year. So if the Bengals end up not winning that game, that's really embarrassing, honestly. So I do have the Bengals winning that game. And I think they'll split the season series against the Ravens, honestly, picking that Week 17 game a little bit early. I just think both teams are going to win at home. To be completely honest, these are the 2 teams I have fighting for the division. So having them go home and home for winning their games seems pretty fair to me. And so, yeah, 6-3 as of right now. I have them beating the Falcons there And the Steelers, I do think will take one. The Steelers, it's just so hard in the AFC North. Every team, this is the most like competitive division every year, no matter how good these teams are. And so I just do think the Steelers are going to take a game from the Bengals at some point, especially because I just don't see them going. I don't see them starting 8 or however good a record I have for them as of right now. I just think they're going to take some losses in some places. The Bengals obviously aren't an amazing team, and so I think this is a very realistic loss for them. But I do think they'll win their next 3 games after that. I don't have much to say about these games. The Bengals are the better team. The Commanders and Saints might give them a little trouble, but I just don't see it. And then obviously the Browns, I think they'll clean up their season series against the Browns pretty easily. And then I have the Chiefs beating the Bengals. I think the Chiefs are going to bounce back pretty heavily this year. And so I just think they'll be able to pull out a win against a team like the Bengals. But really, overall, there's not too much to say about the Bengals. They, in my opinion, are going to win these 2 other games that I haven't picked yet. Finishing 12-5, that's a great record for them. And so, yeah, I don't really think there's too much I'd change here if I were like thinking about it a little bit more. I mean, maybe switch this Bucks game to make them 11-6 or something like that. But for now, I'll keep it at 12-5. Maybe when I get to the NFC South, I might change my mind on that. But this is what I have the Bengals for right now. And so, yeah, there's not too much more to say about that. And then I'm going to go ahead and give the Bengals both of these games against the Browns here. So in the games I've already picked for the Browns, they're 1-5. I only gave them a win against the Titans. And that's really just a 50-50 game in my opinion. So that's a little rough because I also have them losing to the Bucks. And I'm a little, I don't know. I don't know if they'll beat the Panthers. I think they could. They're at home in this game. The Panthers, I think, will stay fine. I mean, they were a playoff team last year, but I don't think they're going to really make a ton of changes. But I don't know. I don't think the Browns are going to be able to do enough in that game. But I do think the Browns will catch a little streak at some point. It's not a very long streak. It's only 2 games, but I'm going to give them week 4 and 5. I don't know. I just think at home against the Steelers, they seem to make some magic happen sometimes against the Steelers, and so I think they can beat them at home. And then the Jets are just the Jets. I'm not too worried about them in really any team's schedule. So I do think it's possible if I'm looking for some wins for the Browns, that's one of them. But then I do think the Steelers and the Saints get them again when they're at home. And the Ravens, obviously, I skipped that game. Yeah, the Ravens are going to beat up on the Browns, to be completely honest. And then, yeah, the Steelers and Saints are going to take those wins, in my opinion, not too crazily. I don't think the Steelers are going to be as good as they were last year. I think they will finally break their mediocrity I don't know. They're not going to be very good this year, in my opinion. I just think Aaron Rodgers is too old at this point. I kind of wish he would have retired last year because that would have meant that the Texans retired him. And that would have been pretty cool, in my opinion. And speaking of the Texans, I had them winning this game against the Browns, which, I mean, I don't think many people will complain about. And then there's 2 games here left in this that I haven't picked yet that I do think the Browns can win. It's not either of those 2 games against the Giants or Ravens. I think the Giants at home this year will be pretty good, especially against teams that they are better than. I don't think they're going to have too much trouble against the Browns. And then obviously the Ravens, I think, will have a pretty good hold on a lot of this division, especially when it's the Browns. And then these 2 games at home for Cleveland, I really do think they could win, especially this Raiders one, because the Raiders obviously were the worst team in the NFL last year. That's why they got Fernando Mendoza. And I just think the Browns are going to be able to do enough at home to just take over the Raiders in this game. I don't think this game will really matter that much to either of these teams. Honestly, probably these teams are going to be hoping to lose this game at this point in the season. And then I don't know for this Falcons-Browns game. This one's very 50-50 for me. I might honestly just close my eyes and pick it. I'm not going to do that, though. I do think I'm going to give it to the Falcons. I don't know. I just don't think the Browns are going to be trying as hard this late in the season to get some of these wins, especially in a game that they could win. And it's not like the Falcons are going to be very great. They have Tua as their quarterback, but I do think they are better than the Browns. And they'll be looking for more wins at this point in the season than the Browns, in my opinion. So 4-13 so far. And then obviously I think I had this. Where is it? Here we go. There's that other Browns game. So these are the games I already have picked for the Ravens. Before I've even actually said anything about their games, I have them at 7-1, which I think is a little crazy, but also I don't think their schedule is too hard. And they have games against teams that they just always win against, like the Texans, who, even though the Texans won last year, is without Lamar and everything that went into that. And so, yeah, I have them beating the Colts week 1. I think that's a pretty easy game for them, even though they're going to Indianapolis. I just don't think the Colts are going to be good at all this year. And then I have them winning their home opener against the Saints. Again, or not again with the Saints, but the Saints I feel like are going to have a very similar year to last year of just not being amazing, but competing. They're going to be an NFC South team like all of the NFC South is all the time. So I don't have too many thoughts on them. I am going to give the Cowboys a game here. I just don't think the Ravens are going to be able to go on an insane run or anything. And I think in Dallas, facing the Cowboys this year will be a difficult task for some teams. And the Ravens, I'm going to give that one 4. And so, yeah, I'm going to have the Cowboys in that game. I think Dak might play pretty well. I also just don't want to have the Ravens going like 15-2 in my predictions for them. So, but I am going to give them a win over Falcons. Similar to how I was 50-50 on the Browns, I just don't think the Falcons are going to be very good. So the Ravens should be able to clean them up pretty easily, even though the Ravens some teams have had some trouble going to Atlanta. But I don't think they will there. I'm going to give the Bills that game. It's at home for the Bills. And obviously that's a very fun matchup, week 8. But I'm going to give that one to the Bills. I think they'll just edge them out a little bit. Not too much, though, thought-wise, just of going into that game. It's a little bit further into the season than you can really predict exactly on how stuff is going to play out. But, yeah, I'm going to give that to the Bills. And then I think that I'm going to give this one to the Ravens against the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be really competitive this season, but it's really tough to go to Baltimore. I just think that the Ravens are going to be looking good at this point in the season. Lamar might be having another MVP level season. And so I think they'll be able to take control of the Chargers here whenever they're at home. And then I feel like I'm going to just have one little upset for the Ravens. The Panthers last year were a playoff team. They're not an awful team. I think they could improve. And it's in Carolina. It's a bit of a tough game for the Ravens to go do, especially after beating two teams that could tire them out a little bit with the Jags and the Chargers. So I feel like at this point in the season, I could see them losing to the Panthers here, especially to force a bounce-back game against the Texans where they're going to be really competitive, and I have the Ravens winning against the Texans. So I think that's definitely a possibility here. But then after the bye week, I think the Ravens are going to be rested, and I'm going to give this one to the Ravens over the Buccaneers. I just think what I've been saying with the Ravens, it's tough to play in Baltimore, and I just don't think the Bucs are going to be an insanely great team this year. I think the Bucs will stay pretty mediocre like they've been the past couple of years. I hope not. I want the Bucs to be good, but I just don't know. They haven't wowed me with anything. And then I'm gonna have the Ravens split this season series with the Steelers, like they do a lot of the time. Which I guess would say that the Bengals are taking this division, in my opinion. Actually, I am going to switch these to. Oh wait, I think I had to put it wrong anyway. It's 12-5 and 12-5. I don't know what I was doing. And so it puts the Ravens and Bengals at an interesting spot here. Same record and everything. I think same exact division record too. So I'm not going to count conference record to really decide that there. But I think this AFC North could really just come down to these Ravens and Bengals games. And I feel like there's a chance that right here with the Ravens, in this last week game could matter a lot to them against the Steelers, especially since I have them losing to the Bengals the week before. But these last couple of games right here for this whole AFC North division is going to be really important because I have these teams, especially the Bengals and Ravens, so close. And then finally with the Steelers, I have some picks already done. Let me go back and make sure I have these all correct. And really for the Steelers, I did that wrong. Okay, there we go. I got it all fixed out. So 4-6 going into me actually making any new picks. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it this whole time. The Steelers, I just think they're gonna I think they're gonna regress a little bit with just how old Aaron Rodgers is. I think the team itself is old. You're just getting to a point with the Steelers, especially now that they've made some coaching changes. It's going to be a very different year for them. I do think they'll be able to compete. They're the Steelers. They'll be able to have competitive games, but they're not going to be a playoff team, in my opinion. I do have them beating the Falcons, though, week 1. It's at home. It's in Pittsburgh. It's against a team that I have at a pretty similar level, I guess. Maybe a little bit worse than the Steelers. But I do think Pittsburgh will be able to pull out that game. And then going to New England week 2, I don't think anybody will complain about me picking the Patriots in that game. And then obviously the Bengals week 3 is a tough game for them. But I have them beating the Bengals a little bit later, so it works out for them. And then I did give them a loss against the Browns, which is a tough 3-week stretch for them. Really starting 1-3 in my opinion. But I think it's very possible, especially because I think they'll bounce back a little bit, getting a win over the Colts. I do think the Bucs will take care of them, though, in Tampa. And I do think the Saints will take care of them in New Orleans, which really gives the Steelers not a lot of chances to pick up wins. Also, I've picked a lot of the rest of their games. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think they're going to have a bit of a tough time on the road this year. And I just don't know how much they'll be able to compete against some of these teams on the road whenever they're at similar levels. The NFC South, I think, is a huge test for the Steelers, actually, because all of those teams are at the Steelers level, in my opinion. And so I think that's a huge test. If they can really play well in some of these games, maybe take all 4 of them or something like that, which they're not going to do. But if they could, that would give them a good push to go into the playoffs. Obviously, it wouldn't help with um, tiebreakers because that's all a different conference. But I just don't see them winning some of these. Maybe you go 2-2, maybe squeak out a win against the Saints. I just don't see it happening there. And then obviously beating the Browns. The Browns gonna have a tough season, but them splitting. I actually have the Steelers splitting with every team in their division. I think they're gonna have a tough time really getting any more than 5 wins. Actually, now that I'm looking at these other 3 games that I haven't picked, I don't think they're gonna beat Philly. I don't think they're gonna beat Denver, and I don't think they're gonna beat Carolina, which I'm kind of shocked at this. I was not expecting to pick the Steelers to go 5-12, but I haven't really taken a hard look at their record or schedule until right now. They have a tough schedule, especially whenever I'm also not being very generous to them and having them lose games against teams that I think they're pretty level with, like the Saints. But still, I just don't see them having a much better record than what I'm giving them. Maybe 6-11, maybe 7-10 even, but that's their best in my opinion. Unless they pull some heavy upsets, and even this has an upset over the Steelers or over the Ravens and the Bengals. So I just don't know how well the Steelers are going to play this year, and I'm a little shocked at what I just picked for them. But after seeing their schedule fully, it's tough. It's tough for them. So that's everything for the AFC North. I think I will do the AFC West next. I just think that'd be fun, picking the Chiefs games, Broncos games, stuff like that. That'll be fun. So Steelers 5-12, Ravens 12-5, Browns 4-13, and Bengals 12-5. This was fun. This was an overall fun episode also. As that's all I have, though. I will be back on Monday, next Monday, going over the World Cup final and semifinals, I guess. I'll talk about those too. And then also doing the AFC West like I just said. But again, I'm Logan. This was Logan Talk Sports, and I will see y'all next week.